The fake deals and phony discounts are out of control in Dallas right now. Builders artificially inflate their home prices, then do what looks like a massive price discount, fooling you into thinking you're getting a good deal. Now, the problem is the homes are still ridiculously overpriced. The reason this is so common is that Texas is a non-disclosure state. If you don't have a license, like for example, a realtor or appraiser, you won't be able to see what homes sold for. You're in the dark, and that means you're ripe for the picking when it comes to these discount scams. For example, if we take a look at Devonshire in Forney, for example, we have 6 builders with inventory homes. The questions we would want to ask are these builders pricing homes at market value? And are the discounts real or just marketing tricks? Builders could price their homes at market value. Like if previous homes had sold at $200 per square foot, they could price their listings at the market value of $200 per square foot. But here's the thing, if they can induce even one person to pay a higher amount, they've just driven up justifiable pricing for the rest of all of their inventory. And it's not, okay, I'm not saying that our builders are villainous, or anything like that. They just want you to pay the highest price they can, and they're gonna shuffle prices and offer trick discounts to try to accomplish that. Let me show you an example of this. In this market analysis, you see 3 homes that have sold in the $170 per square foot range. Now that's a clear expression of market value. But then you have one buyer, okay, and it only takes one, who overpaid at $186 per square foot. Now you have a higher average price per square foot for the whole community. If you look at the first and fourth homes, you can see these are the exact same square footage, the exact same house. Like I looked at the pictures and they are literally the same house. Oh, and they only closed 1 week apart. Buyer A paid $323,000 and buyer B paid $348,150. So in this situation, buyer A paid market value and buyer B is upside down. It'll take roughly 5 years of making mortgage payments for buyer B to get to the $323,000 amount that buyer A started out with. And by that time, he'll have paid over $123,000 in interest. 5 years just to get from being upside down to what the original market value is. So I hope you're seeing the magnitude here of overpaying and why high pressure tactics and price manipulation are so dangerous. Yet another example of this, again in Forney, is we have 2 buyers paying exactly the same price, $163 per square foot. Now this is an excellent example, again, of giving you a suggested list price with it being the exact same amount. But then you have a buyer who comes in and pays $179 per square foot. So I looked at all 3 houses and they have the same amount of upgrades and they're definitely comparable, okay? So you have to ask yourself, what happened here? Well, if you look at that home, you see it was originally priced at $604,900. Then it has a huge price reduction to $549,900. And at that point, our buyer steps in, and this person had a realtor. So the only thing I can assume is the realtor didn't do his or her job of providing comprehensive data. At any rate, either the buyer or the buyer's realtor thought they were doing a great job as negotiators because they negotiated the price all the way down, another big chunk to $520,000. So the buyer probably felt great about buying an already reduced house that he was then able to negotiate even lower. Emotionally, this was a win for them. Like that realtor probably bragged about his or her negotiating prowess. But if our buyer were to try and sell right now, all right, what would the suggested list price be? Well, in the $471,000 range. After he paid $520,000. All right, our buyer overpaid by $48,115. And you know one of the worst things about this, guys, the houses are like right next door to each other. Like literally, if the neighbors compare notes, one of them is gonna realize that he drastically overpaid and is now upside down. I hope you can see just having a realtor here is not enough, okay? This particular buyer had a realtor. That doesn't mean you're gonna be protected from these kinds of tactics, all right? We do have to face the facts, all right, that once the realtor gets paid, their job is done. Like, your realtor's not going to be on the hook for your unsellable house. All right, they're not the one paying down debt every month on a house where you owe more than it's worth. Hopefully it goes without saying here that you need a realtor who's going to prioritize the data. Now, obviously we do that here at Home in Dallas, and we would love to get connected. The best way you can reach us is through our Let's Find Home questionnaire, and then a Google Meet. And again, we would absolutely love to get connected. Now, I've used the term upside down several times now, and I want to make sure you understand what that really means. Okay, so let's just say you buy a home for $520,000, but the true market value was only $471,000. All right, if you need to sell within the next few years, could be like, due to a job change, family situation, or maybe just a shift in priorities, all right, you're going to be in trouble. All right, you will still owe that higher amount. That means you either lose money out of pocket or you're stuck in a house that you're upside down on. It's draining you financially, but you can't sell it. And it doesn't stop there. If interest rates drop to like 5% and you want to refinance, you can't, because your home doesn't appraise high enough to cover what you owe plus the closing costs. So now you're stuck with a 7% interest rate and you can't refinance. So you can't refinance, you can't sell, okay? So suddenly what felt like a dream home, okay, and an emotional negotiating win becomes a burden that traps you. So do you think people go bankrupt from this sort of thing? Oh, absolutely they do. Now that you have a good idea of the tactics of how this works, let's pop back over to Devonshire in Forney. We have 6 builders, each with a decent amount of inventory, with our first builder being Ashton Woods. Now, when we look at Ashton Woods sold homes in Devonshire, we see an average sold price of $164 per square foot. Now, looking at their active listings, we see an average of $160 per square foot. All right, so how about them apples, okay? They're actually priced below market value. Okay, but what about their price reductions, okay? Does that mean that they're true reductions? Well, 3 out of 5 of their homes have had their prices reduced. And what we see is that the price reduced homes are now priced in line with all the other active listings. So we can see that the prices aren't bad, but they're really not huge reductions either. If we focus like only on homes with price reductions, the discounts are real, and that they're now all priced the same as their other active listings, all of which, okay, and this is the good news, are lower than their average sold prices. So this could be some real opportunity with Ashton Woods. Next up, what are we gonna find with Trophy Signature Homes? Well, they are currently selling for an average of $157 per square foot, but the homes that are on the market are listed at $160 per square foot. So right off the bat, we can see that they're priced above market value. Now, that might not sound like much, right? But as you saw in my examples earlier, even a few dollars per square foot can make a big difference. Out of the 11 active listings, only 3 have had price reductions, and none of them were, originally priced outrageously high to begin with. When you look closer, 2 of those 3 price cuts seem legit and bring the homes closer to the market value, but the third one is still priced too high, even after the discount. So if you're wondering whether builder discounts are real or fake, in this case, we're gonna see it's a mixed bag. 2 are real and 1 still overpriced. And then overall, while the homes aren't priced as badly as we're gonna see with some others, all right, the discounts aren't anything special, okay? They're more like soft adjustments than actual, true deals. Now get ready, because we're going to see the real pricing tactics kick in. Let's talk about Perry Homes. Okay, Perry Homes are selling for an average of $192 per square foot, but the homes currently on the market are listed around $215 per square foot. Okay, that is a pretty big gap, and it clearly shows that these homes are priced well above market value. I mean, this is again another example of don't ever assume that the list price reflects the market value. Interestingly, 6 out of the 10 active listings have had price reductions, but don't get excited about that, okay? Because even with those discounts, the prices are still higher than what the market shows buyers are willing to pay. In other words, these price drops, okay, they're not real deals. They're the exact kind of marketing tactics that we're talking about here. The discounts may look like savings on paper, but the homes are still overpriced. Moving on to Shattuck Homes, let's see how many more of these builders are actually pricing to sell and how many are just pricing with tactics. All right, Shattuck Homes at Devonshire are currently selling for about $177 per square foot, but the active listings are priced at $180 per square foot. So that means they're still above market value, just it's not as much, right? And it may not seem like a huge jump, okay? But do keep in mind, okay, remember, every dollar counts, okay? Especially when you're buying thousands of square feet. Out of the 3 active Shattuck listings, 2 have had price reductions, but don't let that fool you, okay? Because even after these cuts, the homes are still listed above where the market is actually landing. So are the discounts real? No, okay? And you as the buyer need to know these aren't true discounts. They're just homes that were overpriced to begin with, and in this case, remain overpriced, even after the so-called deal. Bloomfield Homes, yet another builder out at Devonshire, has been selling homes for around $187 per square foot, but the active listings are averaging $196 per square foot. So pretty clearly above market value. So if you're browsing these Bloomfield listings, okay, thinking you're getting a fair deal, all right, think again. You have to take a closer look at what similar homes have actually sold for. All 3 of the active listings have had price reductions, right? Sounds promising at first, but the details tell a different story. 2 of the homes are still overpriced even after the price cuts, and only 1 has come down to actual market value. So are the discounts real? Okay, well, in this case, it's a mixed bag. Only 1 is legit, while the others are just overpriced homes wearing a discount label. All right, the next builder is Highland Homes, and there is definitely something you want to see here. Highland's average sold price per square foot is $174, and their average active listing price per square foot is $194. Now, these homes are blatantly priced way above market value here. Of these ridiculously high-priced homes, what percentage have had price reductions? Only 1 out of 4. The single home with a price reduction is in fact much closer to the market value, okay? It's listed at $177 per square foot, but as we can see by the recent sales, it's still overpriced. So Highland Homes at Devonshire, right? Fake deals. Now, we focused a lot on price reductions with these builders in Devonshire, but I do want to show you this active listing by Highland because this is an example of the prices increasing. The pattern we see, again, is that builders raise prices well beyond what closed sales would support, and then they give those deep discounts. Well, this home is a great example of the rising prices side of that equation. You can see the original price was $446,000, and now they've raised it to $463,000. And this is where they are setting the stage to later do like a big price reduction. I use the word scam in making this video, but really this is about builders constantly testing the market. If they raise prices, will anyone go for that higher price? They're just running a business, right? And they're trying to come out on top as much as possible. But you have to have the same mindset when you go to buy. You have to see it for what it is, because being upside down on your home and unable to sell if you had to can put you in foreclosure. It can ruin your credit. Okay, it can have creditors coming after you. Okay, but back to our original questions. Let's break down what we've learned about inflated prices and fake discounts. Are these builders pricing their active listings in line with or below recent comparable sales? Well, we just saw that 1 builder is, and 5 builders are not. Okay, so 5 are overpriced. Are the discounts real or just marketing tricks? Well, we have 1 builder with real discounts, 3 builders with phony discounts, and 2 builders with mixed discounts, some real and some fake. So I hope, again, you're seeing how urgent it is to understand market value before buying new construction and how easy it is to end up upside down. So don't underestimate how devastating an impact it can have on your budget to be upside down. If you're really starting to understand how big of a deal this is, you're probably starting to ask, what can I do about it? Well, the number 1 thing you should do is to always be informed. Do not be an impulsive buyer, okay? This means keeping a poker face with the sales consultants. Don't even entertain a conversation about price until you have information on comparable sales. And speaking of knowing what that starting price should be, hopefully by now you're seeing how important the market analysis is, but I do want to make sure you understand exactly what it is and how you can get one. An important thing to know is you're not going to be able to do this report on your own. Remember, that's how builders can get away with the pricing tactics, because Texas is a non-disclosure state. So as an unlicensed person, you will not have access to the closed sales. The most important thing to know when understanding a market analysis is that a suggested list price is measured by closed sales. Those sales need to be as comparable as they possibly can to the home that you're considering. There are specific guidelines we follow in measuring how comparable the sales are, from the difference in square footage, lot size, year built, to even things like what kinds of flooring they have or how updated each bathroom is. Now, ultimately, you need to have a professional completing this research for you. Okay, so how do you get a professional to do this for you? Well, you've got a couple options, okay? You could hire an appraiser. Also, you could hire a realtor. Both are trained in how to complete these reports, okay? So here is the breakdown on each one. An appraiser's report will be far more formal and lengthy. You have to remember, the service the appraiser is providing is limited in scope, okay? They are providing you with an appraisal. That's their sole job. So when the appraisal is done, the appraiser has completed his service to you and he'll expect to be paid. Now, appraisals are typically gonna run you anywhere from like $500 to $600. And this can get pricey when you're only in the negotiation phase and you're not yet sure if you'll be buying the home. So imagine how you'd feel if you spent $500 and the appraisal shows the home is way overpriced, but the sellers won't come down. So yes, you will get a more heavily detailed report, but you may end up having to order multiple appraisals, which can get expensive very quickly. Your other option is a realtor whose service will typically include but not be limited to providing sales data. Now, a good realtor will provide a comparative market analysis. Now, it will not be as lengthy or formal as an appraisals analysis, but there's also a good chance a realtor will not charge you individually for each market analysis. Another thing to consider with realtors, though, is that they won't all automatically run an analysis for you. One of your biggest problems, and I mean your biggest problems with realtors, is that most of them don't even know. You don't start negotiating from the price the sales consultant quotes you. The minute you do that, you've already lost. You absolutely must do the market analysis first and then negotiate from there. In fact, I recently did a video where I did exactly that, scoring a full $234,000 off the price the sales consultant quoted me. So you don't have to put up with these phony discounts. Now, if you're interested in watching that video, you can catch it right here. In the meantime, this is Wendy Pinnell, and I'll catch you on the next video.